Hi everyone, we've got a full moon coming up in Pisces. It's not just any full moon though, it's a super full moon with eclipse. What does that mean, Kirsty? You might be asking. Well, it's not just this energy of the full moon that can, of course, illuminate things for us. And we know that full moons are great to work with, to support us with releasing and detaching. But this is about heightening of illumination. Revelation, realization, awakening, and it can be quite sudden. So this is about things suddenly being brought to the surface, kind of suddenly being seen, being visible. And this is why when I mentioned about awakening, so it could be awakening us to some kind of truth. It could be revealing something that was hidden. It might be something we're already aware of, but it's coming to the surface. So it's heightening this energy. And there is another eclipse coming up when we have the new moon in a couple of weeks' time after this full moon. So we are in that eclipse portal, and there's so much other stuff going on astrologically as well, certainly with Pluto in retrograde, and he's now moved back into Capricorn. So he's really trying to clean house, and he's cleaning Saturn's house, by the way. So it's not really an easy place to be, but Pluto and Saturn are working together in that respect. We're receiving heavy life lessons at the moment because Saturn wants to get us in alignment with our spiritual truth, and Pluto is helping by cleaning up his house, going back into Saturn's home, cleaning up things, churning up things from the depths that really do need to be transformed and or released and detached from. And this can be anything that's related to our work lives, because we think of that Capricornian energy and that's Saturnian energy, but also rules, boundaries, systems, structures. Okay. And I know I've said in previous videos that, Pluto takes 250 years approximately, I think it's 248, to go around the whole zodiac. So him going back into Capricorn as part of his retrograde is not going to happen again for us in our lifetime. So it's pretty significant. And with this full moon, this super full moon with eclipse, it could be bringing a lot more things to light. Okay. So it's just really showing us, that energy is showing us where there are other aspects we need to pay attention to. That's the illumination. That's why it helps us in that way. So if we're aligned with that energy, it's going to reveal quite a lot to us. Now, of course, we'll look at what the moon is doing when I pull up the chart very shortly. But what I will say is there is a grand trine that's actually an earth trine, and that is between Pluto in Capricorn, Uranus in Taurus, and he is now retrograde as well, and the sun, because the sun is in Virgo. We're in Virgo season. So this trine is harmonious aspects. So all of these planets are working together in that way, in a harmonious way. So for me, because it's earth energy, it's very much to do with our reality. This is about profound transformation and change on a soul level, because we've got Pluto, Uranus, and the sun. Okay, so again, the sun likes to be seen no matter what is going on. The sun shines no matter what is going on, and there is profound transformation that is happening, as well as change, because Uranus is also asking us to look at that from a worth and values perspective, being in Taurus. So that's one thing we'll look at in the chart. But also, as we found on this healing journey, and for those of you it's resonating with, there's been quite a few challenges going on, because we are being asked to really step onto our path and to get into alignment with our spiritual truth. So we've had to go through lessons, those Saturnian lessons I was referring to earlier. But there is something to be said about the commitment we have to ourselves in this process, because Venus and Juno are both in trine, okay, to Jupiter. So again, harmonious aspects going on here, and I'll show you on the chart, but Jupiter's in Gemini, so there is something about being open-minded to the expansion and how the growth is actually taking place for us. We need to maybe have a different perspective on certain situations, but it really shows us with Venus and Juno there in Libra, okay, that fairness and reciprocity and balance is what we're striving for. We're wanting things to be of a just, fair nature. And certainly when it comes to where we're investing our time and our energy, our love, our resources in that way, and that commitment to ourselves, and to other people that's enabling us to experience that growth and that expansion. That's pretty powerful. So yeah, that's really good. But also with Pluto, and I keep mentioning Pluto because he is a very prominent figure at the moment, but Pluto is in sesquisquare to, if I remember rightly, Vesta. Yes, Vesta. So this is about the sacred flame. So in sesquisquare, so there is minor challenges around this energy. And for me, when I saw this, it was very much about, okay, we do need to work with this energy to detach from certain things, situations, people, whatever they might be, that's not sparking that flame within. And any kind of resistance energy to that could be why there's some challenge in the energy. But we'll come on to that when I pull up the chart. And as always, I have got a couple of decks of cards here. I've got the Queen of the Moon, in view of it being a super full moon eclipse coming up, and Wisdom of the Oracle. Okay, so I will timestamp just in case you want to jump straight to the cards, just for some additional messages. But without further ado, let's get the chart up and see what we've got in store for us. So bear with me whilst I just find the chart. Okay, here we go. All right, so super full moon eclipse in Pisces, 17th or 18th of September, depending on where you are in the world. Now, for us in the UK, it's actually happening at 3:34 a.m. British summertime on the 18th of September. So apply your own time zones. But what I found very interesting about that for the UK, and sort of from a numerological point of view, is the moment just before this super full moon eclipse is actually 333. So that's all about manifestation, which is a new moon, really, not a full moon. But we're wanting to manifest a new reality for ourselves, aren't we? So that's a big reminder of that just before this super full moon eclipse. And this super full moon eclipse might show us exactly what we need to release and detach from, that's holding us back from those manifestations that we are wanting in our reality. So that angel number might be significant for you as well. But take it with a pinch of salt, because as I say, this applies to a time zone, and you know, there are people watching that are on different time zones. I was just drawn to that particularly. Now you'll see here the moon, okay, 25 degrees of Pisces. And we're in Virgo season, so we know that the sun is opposite when it comes to a full moon. And that opposition energy is like a push-pull energy, but we can also enable this energy to work for us. And what I've said within many of my astrological reports is that Virgo and Pisces is very much like the 3D and the 5D. So Virgo is that grounded earth energy, that 3D reality, because Virgo likes to plan, to get things structured, to get things in order. Okay, Virgos like to have a plan and they like to schedule things. But it's about reality. This is about, okay, the physical reality. And Pisces, and take it from me as a Piscean, we can be dreamers and up in the clouds and very much ethereal. But Pisces rules the 12th house in astrology, the subconscious. It's the spiritual realms. So there is something here also about the 3D versus the 5D and how we need to kind of straddle the two, because whilst we're going through, you know, this journey, we're understanding how we can incorporate our 5D essence into our 3D reality. And that in itself could be bringing in a lot of illumination and awakenings, okay, within the collective. If you're not already on that path, that might be happening for you. So we need to try and balance that out. And it's very important to understand how we can allow that ethereal essence of ourselves, you know, that spiritual essence that we have within ourselves, connected via our intuition, how we can then enable that to transform our reality so that we can use that energy to work for us in the best way, But the push-pull comes because, yes, we want to dream, but we need to also ground ourselves. And, you know, we want to get things in order, but we also do need to connect spiritually and via our intuition. So we need the two energy, and it's mutable energy. So there is a flow to this as well. So very interesting just to look at that straight off the bat. But with the moon itself, and Neptune is close by, of course, also in Pisces, and there is a sextile here to Pluto in Capricorn, and also to Uranus. So again, that ethereal essence within, our intuition guiding us when it comes to this profound transformation of our reality, Pluto and Capricorn, and the change that we're wanting to experience, guided by our worth and values and empowerment of that with Uranus in Taurus on a new path, is obviously being guided via our intuition, our higher self, and also with the moon there, our emotions. Now, the moon in Pisces can be a very sensitive place. So this eclipse, yes, it might heighten the energy, particularly for mutable signs. So that is Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sagittarius. But if you're sensitive to lunar energy anyway, or you've just got a lot going on because of this healing journey, you might also be finding it quite a sensitive topic, you know, to be experiencing, because you're aware of things that are coming up for your attention on your healing journey, and those things that you do need to detach from. So it's not just a blanket statement here, but it's saying that the moon in Pisces is a very sensitive place to be. And our intuition could be showing us things that maybe we don't want to look at. Now, Saturn in Pisces as well is heightening the energy of, look, okay, you might not want to be aware of this, but you have to get in alignment with your spiritual truth. So you need to trust your intuition. And that is our inner compass. So our intuition is not going to lie to us. Our ego might, because our ego is trying to protect us. And when we put conditioning and all this societal patterning and expectations into the mix as well, it can become a bit hectic. So this is stripping it back for us. And that's why, you know, with the Pisces Virgo, yes, we do need to be anchored into our reality, but we also need to understand what our intuition is showing us and has been showing us. Okay, certainly with these lessons that Saturn has been serving up for us, because he is in Pisces. So he is bringing structure and some kind of authority to a sign that doesn't really have that. And that's what can feel uncomfortable. There is also a trine that's going to Pallas in Sagittarius. So Pallas is an asteroid. And think of Pallas Athena, that goddess Athena energy of the warrior spirit. Okay. There could also be some sort of links here to Aphrodite in some way, but more so Athena, Pallas Athena. And this is about, fighting for what we want. Okay. So again, could be revealing stuff to us. And with Pallas being in Sagittarius, that's about a journey. It's about learning. It's about a discovery. So this eclipse might be really teaching us something, showing us something. We might have learned something already from all these retrogrades and from the healing journey. And what is that showing us that we do need to detach from? Saturn is in trine to Poseidon, so the waters have had to be shaken up a bit, metaphorically speaking, in order to learn these lessons. And that's two water signs that are working together, Scorpio and Pisces. Now, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. So Poseidon being there in Scorpio is about, I'm not afraid to shake the waters up, and I'm not afraid to shake them up on a deep level. So that might just be happening to really show things, to illuminate things, to reveal things for this eclipse and around this eclipse. Or it might have already happened. We might even be shaking up the waters ourselves because we know that change is needed, and we are tired of the same monotonous routine, and we know that change is needed. So we are actually shaking up those waters as well. So take it as it resonates, if it does at all, of course. Okay, but those are the key things really relating to the moon in this particular chart. But we know with astrology, there's a bigger picture going on. And that grand trine that I referred to earlier, we've got Uranus at the top there in Taurus, in retrograde. Pluto now in Capricorn at the final degrees, the harsh degrees of Capricorn. He's doing his work in Saturn's home. And then the Sun in Virgo. So it is that profound transformational change from a soul perspective, the Sun. Okay, that's the soul essence of the cosmos. So if we're aligning with that, we are saying, okay, we're ready for this change. We know things have to transform in our realities. We want them to. We might not know how that's going to happen. And this is where Jupiter and Gemini comes in, you know, this expansion and growth. We might not know how it's going to happen. We need to be open-minded to it. But the growth and expansion is available. And with that commitment to the self, because we've got there Juno and Venus, as I mentioned before, in trine to Jupiter, that's about committing to the self and investing in those places that bring that divine justice, that bring that reciprocity, in order to then receive that expansion, which of course happens within. It's that inner growth, and then we can receive that reflected back to us in our reality. So that's extremely positive, but we need to also have the open-minded perspective on how things might change for us. Virgo likes to know exactly what's going on and how this is going to be and what's going to happen if I do this. So it's a bit out of the comfort zone in that way, but we're being asked to really step into that place of the unknown, and to work with the energy in that way. Okay. Now, Pluto, as well as that sesquisquare that I alluded to, which is the orange line, if you can see it there in orange, to Vesta, that's that minor challenging energy that is saying to me, certainly, what's not sparking that kind of creative flame within, or that passionate flame within. If it's not, then that needs to be released. You know, we need to detach from that. And again, Vesta in Virgo, so think of the reality and getting things in order. Well, if it's not lighting that flame within, why is it still in my reality? Pluto is showing us this, but it can be challenging because detachment from it can be challenging if there's resistance to hold on to something. So that might be being experienced as well. But Pluto is also in trine to Lilith. So we've got Lilith there at 3 degrees of Libra in retrograde, along with the South Node there that you can see. But Lilith will show us those shadow aspects. And Lilith is a great teacher in that respect. So the harmonious aspect that's going on between Lilith and Pluto is like, okay, I'm going to show you where things have not been fair in the past. I'm going to show you where things have not been reciprocal in the past. And this might show you some shadow aspects when it comes to that, because perhaps you've accepted it because you've got a deep-rooted fear about something, or you don't feel worthy of receiving the same back to you. And so from that balance perspective of Libra, I'm going to show this to you because this needs to profoundly transform. But it's dealing with the shadow aspects. It's dealing with the shadow work. It's dealing with the shadow feminine. Lilith is the shadow feminine. She can also show us our deep desires. So what we are really wanting in our reality, but from that fair perspective, because of course she is in Libra at the moment. And that's cardinal energy. That's about starting things off. So when we look at Lilith, Juno and Venus there, that's feminine energy. So think of that creation perspective of the feminine. We need to have some nurturing there as well. But from a creation perspective, we're wanting to create things. That's the feminine essence, regardless of gender. Okay, so the feminine essence within wants to create something for our reality. And we want it to be fair. We want it to be harmonious. We want it to be balanced, and we want to receive that reciprocal energy. So having, you know, 3 feminine energies there in Libra, along with the South Node, is sort of saying, look, we've got to see where maybe it's not been like that in the past, because the South Node is there. This could also relate to past life patterns as well, by the way, that's coming forward to this lifetime for healing, if that's resonating for you. But, you know, commitment to the self is a massive part of this in order to balance the scales of justice and to know where we are investing our energy. So, you know, our time is precious to us. Our energy is precious to us. Our love, you know, our heart chakra energy is precious to us. Where are we investing that energy? Are we getting the same back? Is it fair? Has that been in the past? We're going to be shown, and that can be uncomfortable. But it's enabling those shadow aspects. This is shadow work. It's enabling us to heal that, and it's enabling us to understand, okay, thanks, Lilith. That's a pattern. That pattern's been coming up for this reason, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I want to restore balance, so I'm going to commit to myself, and I'm only going to invest in those aspects, experiences, people that bring me that reciprocal energy. Thank you. That's going to restore fairness for me, and it's going to balance out the scales of justice. And by doing that, that's going to enable Pluto to profoundly transform your reality. And in that very process, you're cleaning house, because you're understanding that's a pattern. It's no longer serving you. Why has it come up? You've accepted it, acknowledged it. There's been that revelation. And then this is about now moving forward. So these things are coming up. And certainly with a super full moon, there is illumination. But with this eclipse, it could be a sudden awakening of certain aspects. Okay, so we need to remember the nurturing energy to nurture ourselves through this process. But ultimately, if we've got that desire for fairness at the heart of it all, then that is what is going to allow us to move forward, to change our reality in terms of how we want to experience things. Who wants to go through life experiencing things that are not fair? Nobody. But have we been doing that and we've not realized? It's only when things are pointed out to us that we suddenly realize. So the universe might be really shining a light on this for us through this super full moon eclipse. And remember, it's a super full moon eclipse in Pisces. So this is about spiritual essence. You might be receiving this illumination via your dreams, via visuals, via meditation, connecting with your guides, connecting with your higher self. Okay. It could be coming through that way, or it might simply be through experiences that are really teaching you those valuable soul lessons, the valuable spiritual lessons. Okay, so it's going to be different for everybody. And you might already be aware of certain things, and it's just working through the shadow aspects and aligning with that energy of fairness that you're wanting to experience, of course. Not long after this super full moon eclipse in Pisces, we will be moving into Libra. So that's when the sun is going to be there in the sign of Libra, really heightening that energy of justice. In tarot, Libra is represented by the Judgment card and the Justice card. So really answering the call from the soul and to our soul, actually, to restore that balance that we're wanting to experience. This is about fairness. And remember, it's cardinal air energy. So we can start things off from that energy. And here, this is what it's saying to me, is we can start things off from that essence of fairness if we're looking at our shadow aspects, Lilith, and if we're committed to ourselves, Juno, and if we're investing in those places that are bringing that reciprocal energy, Venus. Okay. Also healing patterns of the past and or past lives, South Node in Libra. Because we know the North Node is in Aries, and that is all about sovereignty. So we want to move forward on a sovereign path, be the leader of our own life. Well, what if in the past we've been told that can't possibly do that, we're not good enough for that, or we've been in countless situations that have not been fair, that have not been harmonious, that have not been balanced? Well, the South Node is going to pull us back to those to show us, because we've got to heal that in order for us to move forward. We're moving away from the South Node towards the North Node, and that's the sovereign path. But Chiron is there, so it's also part of our healing journey. So it's going to bring things up that need to be healed, and maybe things we don't want to face, because it's making us stronger. It's empowering us to take our power back in that respect. And Aries is all about the self. So this is about really focusing on the self as we move forward and detaching from those aspects that, you know, are not for us. They're not aligned with our sovereign path. They're not supporting the change that we want to experience. And they're not sparking that flame within, like I showed you with Pluto, sesquisquare, Vesta. The other thing I wanted to mention is that Mars over here in Cancer, so that's masculine energy in a very feminine sign, is opposite Ceres in Capricorn. Vertex point is also there, so it's fated and destined moment within our reality, that Capricornian energy. But Ceres is also feminine energy and does offer some expansion as well. There is that groundedness with Ceres being in Capricorn. And, you know, we want to kind of plant those seeds in order to really reap those rewards as we're going through in terms of building the new reality for ourselves. But with that opposition energy, we might be feeling a bit stagnant, or we might not really know where we need to take action. So this super full moon eclipse in Pisces might show us via our intuition or via those other methods I mentioned before of where we do need to take action, and where action has been needed on our path in order to expand our reality in the way that we want to experience it. And it could pertain to those aspects of fairness that I mentioned before, because we have got a lot going on in Libra relating to that, and certainly from that feminine essence energy supporting us through on this journey, I would say. Okay. The other interesting thing I will mention before I move on to the other chart, and you might not be able to see it that clearly because I appreciate I've got a lot of lines going on here, but there is a kite here. Can you see the kite? Because you've actually got the purple lines, if they're showing up as purple for you, that are there sort of almost at the top of the kite, if you like, if you're looking at it that way around. But if you just look at the pink line with the purple lines, that's also like an arrow that's pointing to the moon. Okay, so it's very much, I would say, that 5D, 3D that I mentioned, and we need to balance the two. We need to understand how we can use that energy to work for us, because we have to understand how to navigate this 3D reality. But this is from a 5D perspective, and you might have heard of this new earth consciousness. We're moving in that direction. This is about getting us in alignment with this, okay? And you might already just be starting on your path in relation to this. And all of these things are being illuminated to you. So remember that feminine essence of nurturing yourself through this process. But ultimately, this is about, you know, pointing to the moon and saying, okay, how do we feel about all of this? And let's embrace those sensitivities we might be feeling. Let's embrace what our intuition is telling us. And that's what's going to guide us in relation to this transformation that we're wanting to experience, and this change within our reality and within our worth and values, and how it's rooted almost by that soul essence of the Virgo energy, because we're wanting to clean things up. So that's at the kind of root of it in that way. And it is a quest. This whole experience is a quest, and we're here to learn. You know, we came here to learn, and we are learning, and we evolve as a result of it, but we're having to go through challenging situations and scenarios to get us to this point, because if we don't experience those things, how do we know? Okay, so it's that. I don't think I've drawn it on here, but there is opposition energy between Saturn and Mercury. So all of those lessons that we're learning, okay, there might just still be that resistance in speaking up. Mercury in Virgo wants to kind of get real about our communication. It's a bit of a truth talk, but also this is about cleaning up where we do need to communicate and where we do need to express ourselves. And you know, Saturn might just be testing us in that way because of what we're experiencing, okay? But it could be forcing us in a good way to get to that point of really needing to clean up our communication, because we're wanting to establish that fair foundation moving forward. Okay, right, I'm going to stop sharing that one, and then I will just show you the transits against the UK's chart. Okay, so here we go. So if you've not seen my astrology reports before now, then I do tend to pull up the UK's chart just to give you some context to the house system. And this is what I would do if I was looking at it against the natal chart to look at a personal horoscope, for example. And I'm not going to go into it in too much detail at all, but you'll see that the inner wheel, that's the UK's natal chart. So that would be your natal chart, for example. And then the outer wheel is the event of the super full moon eclipse that I've just shown you. So I've not drawn everything on here because it would get too messy in the middle, but I've just highlighted some things of note. We've obviously got this opposition energy between the sun in Virgo in the 3rd house for the UK and the moon in Pisces in the 9th house. So the 9th house is the Sagittarius house. That is the quest. It's learning, it's discovery. So the moon is enabling us to discover certain things. This super full moon, this eclipse, is allowing us to learn things through illumination, through revelation, okay? Through awakening, spiritual awakening. And the opposition energy is with the 3rd house of communication and expression. So, okay, we need to be rooted in our reality. We're learning what we're learning from an ethereal perspective in relation to all of this. And then how are we going to then express that or embody that within our own personal expression from a soul perspective, rooted in our reality? We've got Pluto, who is transiting the 6th house for the UK. So where is Pluto for you? Because that's going to show you the profound transformation that's being called for in your reality. But here, for the UK as a collective, if we look at it like that, this is about the 6th house. So daily routines and schedules. Where do they need to profoundly transform? Are we doing the same thing day in and day out, and it's just monotonous and it's not working for us anymore? We need to change something. This is also to do with where we are of service to other people. How does that need to change? And ultimately, this is to help us transform so it impacts on our well-being in a positive way. If we're looking at where we are of service to others, we also need to look at the 11th house of connections with others. And here we've got Uranus in retrograde, 3 degrees off the UK's natal Venus. So we need to know our worth when it comes to where we're investing that Venus energy in order to understand where that change is needed. And also, you know, the innovation that's required within our connections with others. How do our connections with other people need to change? And certainly our investment in those connections with others, how does that need to change? This relates to worth and values because of the Taurus energy there. Okay. We've also got here Chiron, 22 degrees of Aries in retrograde, and he is 1 degree off the UK's natal sun in the 10th house. So when it comes to healing our sovereignty, it's very much focused on the workplace for some people, the soul essence, okay, of that warrior spirit, Aries energy, and how that is impacting our inner authority. So are there situations or people that are challenging our inner authority? Because that is where the heightened energy of the healing is needed. And with Chiron in retrograde, again, it's another chance for introspection. So looking at all these things, and that might also be something that's illuminated to us at this time. Okay, so I just wanted to show you, there's obviously a lot more going on. But I just wanted to show you those key things and to draw that arrow of where it's pointing. So it's pointing towards the 9th house. This is about how our embodiment of our expression from a soul perspective can really guide us in the direction of what we are learning and those Saturnian lessons that we're going through. And if we look at the UK's natal chart placements, we've got Uranus there, we've got Mercury and Jupiter. So what is this teaching us that's allowing us to expand in a profoundly spiritual way? And how is this really enhancing our communication? What are we learning about this? What are we learning about where change is needed and how we can step onto that rightful path as a sovereign being? Where do we need to look at the self? What is it teaching us about the self? What is it teaching us about? And this is just coming through to me. And I do, you know, I get channeled insights through these readings as well. So this has just come through to me, how here we've got Pisces and we've got a little bit of Aries there as well. This is what makes astrology unique, folks, as well, because it's not just necessarily one house per sign. Here in the ninth house, you can see we've got Pisces, but we've also got a little bit of Aries. And Pisces is at the end of the zodiac, Aries is at the beginning. So this is very much about closing out cycles and starting new ones. So we need to detach from that which is not serving us on a spiritual level. And it's not to say you've got to have spirituality rammed down your throat. If you don't believe in that, that's fine. But those of you that are on this journey and understand what I'm saying about the 3D versus the 5D, the new earth consciousness, how we're moving forward in that way, how this is a definite new reality for us all, and how we are aligning to move forward in that direction. This is about taking that wisdom that Pisces can offer from an ethereal perspective, but the ancient wisdom that's within, guided by our inner compass of our intuition, but accruing all of that wisdom from the 12 zodiac signs, and then stepping forward to start that new cycle of the sovereignty, which is Aries, of course. It's like a reset point in that way. Okay, so thank you, Spirit, that came through. So somebody might need to hear that. Okay, this is emphasis here about how we are showing up for ourselves in a sovereign way. And it goes back to that commitment to the self, doesn't it? And you know, that Libra energy is sort of straddled between the third house and the fourth house. So yes, we want to have that within our foundations, and certainly within our home life, if you like, wherever home is for you. Okay, and we have that home within ourselves, if you think of the soul. But you know, the shadow stuff is coming up as it relates to our expression. But you know, we're committing to ourselves because we want to feel at home in a fair circumstance, in a fair experience, and we're needing to understand and ensure that we're laying that fair foundation. Okay, because the fourth house can also relate to foundations, and we've got the south node there as well. Okay, so yeah, very, very interesting times, certainly at the moment, as I'm sure you've been feeling. But you know, this is enabling the energy to work for us in that way. And I do certainly feel that it's very, very heavily connected to this 3D and 5D balancing out of the reality that we're experiencing on our day-to-day lives, but also how we're connecting in with that ethereal 5D essence, and not neglecting that, because that's our inner compass, as I've said. Okay, right, let's stop sharing. Let's just take some cards, and again, I'll timestamp this. Let's go with the Queen of the Moon first of all. Okay, and she is a sovereign being in her own right. Okay, let's see what we have for the collective then, for this super full moon in Pisces with eclipse on the 17th or 18th of September, depending on where you are in the world. What does the collective need to know? What additional messages do we need to be aware of, please? There's certainly revelations and awakenings and illuminations here going on. And I feel it's guided by the intuition. You know, it's guided by the ethereal essence. Apologies, just dropped on the floor. Okay, we have got focus, and this is a beautiful depiction on this card actually, because we can see, you know, she's in a bit of a bubble here, and this butterfly really stands out, but notice where it is. It's over her third eye. So it's profound transformation from that connection with the ethereal, okay, with the third eye. And meditation practices, you know, whatever it might be, if that's resonating for you, there's some kind of focus that's needed in that area to enable that transformation. And there's protection to that as well. Okay, this is very important. Self-love. And we need to understand, certainly with that Libra energy, that we want fairness, we're worthy of fairness, and we deserve reciprocity. So of course, if we're committed to ourselves, we're showing ourselves that self-love, then that's going to enable us to attract that back to us in our reality. But it starts with us. Okay. And then we have the masculine. So this is very much about that masculine essence that is within us to take action, that drive to take action. And as he's standing there, it looks like he's actually going to step through a bit of a portal. And it's a bit of a portal of light. But we need to understand what we're being guided to do in order to then take that action. You know, the feminine essence within is the creator, the nurturer, and also the empath, if you think of it like that. And, you know, we're nurturing ourselves through this process, but the masculine wants us to take action. So, of course, ready and poised to step through the portal, eyes open. But before that, we need to have our eyes closed, metaphorically speaking, in order to receive that insight from our intuition. Okay, that's what that feels like. Hidden energy, darkness. So yes, many people have been experiencing what we call a dark night of the soul. And that is part of the journey. Okay, it can feel horrific. It can feel intense. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is one of those experiences that is a profound spiritual awakening, because it's showing you all of those aspects that need to be healed and cleansed and cleared in order to step forward. So after that, being healed and evolved, you are then automatically not going to be the same as before. But sometimes we have to walk that path in order to understand what it is we do need to transform. Here, we've almost got this eclipse energy, and that's lighting the path. So that's that illumination that could be coming through in relation to that. Okay. Let's go with the wisdom of the oracle. And interestingly, I'll show this to you. On the front of the box, we have got the scales of justice. Okay, what else do we need to look at, please, for this super full moon in Pisces with eclipse? What else do we have, please? Let's ground the energy. Thank you. Okay. Interesting. Poised. And what was I just saying? Poised. Yeah, that is very interesting. That is about understanding. That's at the place of realization. Yeah, wow, beautiful. New life. And that's similar poses. What else have we got here? The fates. The fates. Okay, hidden energy. Milk and honey. And then we've got round and round. Yeah, so it's actually, you know, detaching from cycles that are just going round and round and round, are almost, you know, too good to be true, but they're going round and round and round, not serving any purpose. Okay, this is a very fated and destined moment for rebirth. And we have here clearly, and they're quite similar, these two cards, a new life on the horizon. And it's being poised and ready to accept that. Okay, but how do we get to that point? Well, we need to shed the old, and that could be as minor or as major, depending on what your situation is. If this is resonating for you at all, if it's not, ignore it. But if it's resonating for you at all, you're going to feel the fates. You're going to feel it is a fated moment. And you might also feel, because I'm just being drawn to that one, that you've had to carry this load for a long time. And going through all of this healing work and really having to find that self-love within, okay, is enabling the focus, yes, but it's been a path. It's been a lot. This is now saying a new life awaits, and to be poised and ready for it, but understanding, of course, what needs to be released. As I mentioned in the astrology, what's not sparking that flame within, that's going to tell you that that's no longer in alignment for you. That's a clear sign, and that's your intuition telling you. But also, look at the moon. That's our emotional home. how we feel about things. Let's not be oversensitive with that Pisces energy, but let's understand how it's making us feel. It's not making us feel good. It's not for us anymore. And maybe it was in the past. And that's where some resistance could be coming in, because it's like, well, I always was doing this in the past. Well, sorry, newsflash, you've actually evolved and ascended. So it's not going to resonate in the same way. Your frequency is different. And that is just how things happen. So we want to stay attached to things, but actually we've evolved. And it's like, well, that's no longer serving me. Why have I suddenly stopped caring about this? Why am I not interested in that anymore? Because it's not serving you. It's not aligned with your soul's truth. So these are some of the potential revelations or illuminations that could be coming up from this super full moon in Pisces with eclipse. Okay, it's heightened energy, it's strong energy. Okay, let's see if we've got one more from Wisdom of the Oracle. I feel like there's one more in here for you. What advice do we have? Well, there we go. To the sea. Okay, and this is not a literal thing, but if you find the sea quite calming, then of course that's going to be great, because it's water energy. So it's going to enable you to connect with your emotions and to connect with that ethereal essence. This is more about, this is more about sailing to calmer shores. Okay, I think of the Six of Swords when I see this one. It's about understanding that to sail to those calmer shores, we've had to maybe go through turbulent times. And the water is calm here. But remember what I was saying in the astrology about Poseidon shaking it up, or maybe you're working with that energy to shake up the waters yourself because you want change. And then it's enabling that calmness to actually come over the situation, to then be in a calmer place. Peace. We want to experience peace. So yes, we're having to go through all of this. We're having to be resilient and to be strong, to gain the wisdom, to get stronger, to take our power back. And then it's time for us to be at peace. And that's the start of our new life then. Okay, that calming nature. Because here we have no place like home. Okay, because home is anywhere we feel it's home. Okay, you can see that that's not attached to the ground at all. That's more of an ethereal representation of home. Home is where you are. We need to feel at home within ourselves. That's where that healing essence comes in, the significance of that anyway. Hopefully that's making sense as I'm explaining it to you. But certainly as I look back at the cards here, we've got many of them, with the exception of the masculine, have got their eyes closed. Okay, so this is about not having your eyes closed to a situation because you need to see it for what it is. Okay, this is more about the eyes closed as in accessing the third eye to be able to understand what it is you need to see. But not only that, the eclipse could open your eyes to a certain situation, to something that you need to heal, to a pattern, to a negative thought that just needs to be detached from, to a situation you need to move on from, whatever it might be, if it's resonating at all. Yes, the masculine essence within us wants to take action, wants to get things moving, but we need to understand why we're moving ahead. And we need to ensure that we're healing things. Yes, we need to move forward, but if we're moving forward and we're not addressing those patterns that are coming up, those shadow aspects, whatever it might be, they're just going to follow us. So we're going to have to deal with it sometime. Okay, that's what I would say with that. All right, so I hope that message finds you well wherever you are in the world. And I'm sending you love and blessings for this super full moon in Pisces with eclipse. And just be kind to yourself throughout this process. We know afterwards we're going to be moving into Libra season. So there is definitely this emphasis at the moment. It's like a foreshadowing, if you like, of that fairness. We need to commit to ourselves, strive for that fairness and reciprocity, the justice that we want to experience. And when we think of justice, we think of divine justice. So if you know inherently within you what is right and what is wrong, it is having the faith in that, because divine justice will play out. Okay? All right. Love and blessings to you all, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.